It is another interesting edition of the Market Review, where we discuss key developments in the financial and capital market as it affects the economy. Our focus today will be exploring the prospects for listing tech companies in the Nigerian stock market. And my guest is Dr. Olufemi Oyenuga, Chief Digital Officer, Nigerian Exchange Group. Before we begin the conversation, let us give you a wrap of major stories from last week. The Securities and Exchange Commission last week stated that Nigeria needs to reposition itself to attract more sustainable financing to achieve growth and development as a nation. Also, stakeholders at 2022 Central Securities Clearing Systems PLC Cybersecurity Conference hosted in Abuja harped on the need for businesses, the financial market, and government to be deliberate about protecting their data, assets, and systems. Also, a vibrant capital market is crucial towards funding development, including trade and commerce. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the Africa Tax Leader at PwC Nigeria, made this point at the NGX webinar on capital market advancement and the 2021 Finance Act. He emphasized the need to prioritize the removal of tax incentives such as deduction of capital market losses and indexation. If you're joining us, it's the Market Review, and our conversation today is on exploring the prospects for listing tech companies in the Nigerian stock markets. On the sidelines of the just concluded 2022 Nigeria Fintech Week, we engaged Dr. Olufemi Oyenuga, Chief Digital Officer, Nigerian Exchange Group, on this very interesting conversation. I first asked him to share the impact of the recent launch of the NGX Technology Board. Here is what he had to say.
So let me actually start by saying it's been a good opportunity to have a discussion with you guys year on year in the Fintech conference, annual conference, which is, I think it's great. That shows progress, it shows a positive cadence. So to track back to the question that you asked about the technology board, we found a need to solve for a problem within the capital markets, within the exchange. And that need was to represent technology company on a board that is different from the premium board or the other elite board that we have in the traditional exchange. So what does the technology board actually means? Harnessing all those fintech technology companies that can come and list on the board with a different set of rules, their say, and a different perspective, ultimately to deepen the market and to drive what is happening within the digital ecosystem transformation. That now ricocheted into us having a webinar on the 6th of November. Now that webinar, the question you're asking, has created, number one, more investor education to start with. Because we had over 5,000 participants, both online and in the economy, to even understand what a tech board means as it's different from a premium board. Secondly, the next level is to now begin to bring companies to enlist on the board. So we've seen some interest of A-list, B-list, and C-list company that would actually list on the board. So you might even have a traditional company that is currently listed on our premium or our main board, but as a technology company that will come and list on the technology board. And what that does is that it increases the opportunity and diversification that we've been seeing in the capital market. But apart from that as well, it also begins to transform slowly our broker community, who up to now are in the traditional space. How do you digitize that evolution from where they are into a tech-centric thinking? So I think the technology board, to answer your question, is on a techpreneurship chasm, and we're going to get there. The outlook for next year is very positive. We're even thinking of even dual listing as well on the technology board. There are some few nuggets around the tech board, and you can see that the webinar was actually opened by the Deputy CBN Governor, who gave the keynote speech. So those are some of the things around the technology. So it will deepen the market, increase the ecosystem understanding of what the tech board is, and make a representation of technology in listing. I dare say that the 5 unicorns that listed in Africa last year, this year, even last year, gave about $7.2 billion in terms of all the financial liquidity that came in but none of them were listed in Nigeria or in Kenya. That's what we're trying to change, and that's what we're solving for. Thank you.
If you follow the global trends, you will realize that NASDAQ has played a key role in improving the valuation of tech companies. Can this be replicated in the Nigerian capital market? Take a listen to his response.
Thank you very much. And that's a great question as well. That question underpins on 3 pillars: partnership, learning and improving, and then looking forward. Partnership, because the NASDAQ that you mentioned is actually a strong collaborative partner with the capital market, with us in NGX. In fact, we use the NASDAQ technology. And there's a lot of iterations towards MOU and collaboration with NASDAQ so that we can learn from what they've done. We can arbitrage that into Nigeria and then fine-tune our global outreach from a local view that we have here. Collaboration, cross-border investments across Africa, starting with West Africa, having a collaboration with like Ghana SEC, Ghana Stock Exchange, Dubai, UAE, and things like that. Those are all the works that we've announced and we're intentional about. All that, what it does is that it gives us an anastomosis to paint for the future of where we will land on this kind of thing that NASDAQ has done with technology in the United States. And I dare say that because Africa is a new chasm and a new frontier for growth, what it does is that if you look at what Afrexim is doing, or what AFTA is doing, bringing all those collaborations together, because you can't do it alone, to be honest, we can't do it alone. Bringing it together and helping us to grow our economy from the lens of traditional to diversification, from the lens of equipping the market after a major election next year, and from the lens of the millennium, ecosystem that we're trying to solve for. I mean, we want youth to be represented in the capital market. And what that does, because the youth are interconnected globally now anyway, what that would do for us is that internal understanding of intelligence of the kind of model that NASDAQ has run, even Bloomberg as well, will help us land that aspiration. So it's not far from actualization. We will get there slowly but surely.
Several years ago, the Securities and Exchange Commission launched the Fintech Roadmap. I was curious to know how this has enabled the integration of fintechs into the capital markets. Dr. Oyenuga provided further insight.
One of the things that really, really is like a low light for fintech in Nigeria, and by extension to the capital market, was that fintech was inward looking for the first 6 or 7 years. But I'm quite excited about some of the content of this conference, looking at cloud, digital infrastructure, sustainable growth, regulation, integration, bringing more to the party, enables us to be outward looking. And I give you the statistics. Most of the fintech proposition or the byproduct or outcome has happened in Africa in the last 5-7 years has been extraction kind of model. So they're taking a lot of value out of Africa to the Western world. Now we have to reverse that. That will be the impact that is defined in that blueprint. And there's a lot happening, like the startup bill as well, that we just passed. That will also enable that inward looking of fintech collaboration. Apart from that, you now have fintechs owning banks. Fintech, not only microfinance bank, fintech only technology services. Even technology companies are beginning to become a digital company, like MTN and Co. You saw the announcement on Payment Service Bank actually going into dollarized kind of business. All that is empowered by the power of fintech. And so we'll begin to see that inward-looking fintech proposition that will drive the aspiration of that document. And it's a living document. So that document will continue to change as technology continues to change. Fintech is just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to crypto and blockchain technology application. There will have 15 to 20 different type of varieties of products and services that is driven by the blockchain. People only know blockchain, but the cryptography world is huge. When you now begin to see central bank financial coin, when you begin to see tokenization in that space, art tokenization, land tokenization, then we begin to say we are opening the door for what fintech can do. So it now becomes not only fintech, but reg tech as well, insure tech, agri-tech, industry tech. So all that is going to be birthed from an ecosystem of innovation hub, incubation hub, accelerating seed funds into Nigeria, and changing to sum it up. In the capital market, we're very intentional about this. So there's a lot of fintech partnership that is at the head of our strategy at the NGX, partnering with not only telcos, also partnering with non-telco companies, and then ultimately onboarding them to the technology board that you first asked. So that it's a complete 360-degree view.
I also raised the issue of the digital ledger technology, or what you call blockchain, and how it is shaping activities in the capital market. And the Chief Digital Officer of NGX gave his perspective.
DLT is an evolution. Whilst the Asian market have semi-perfected the gaps and the wins on DLT, we're just starting here. And speaking to it is that we have to work with the regulation. From a capital market perspective, SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. From the money market perspective, the central bank. Where all that, because how do you settle, on a DLT perspective? Talk about Web 3.0, for example. I've not even seen that really taken up in Nigeria. But when I look at Singapore, when I look at Indonesia, when I look at Malaysia, it's really happening there. So those are some of the things we continue to learn. So we have to curate it with the regulator so that everybody is at least at peace and at rest with risk and liability that it can present. That's how I see the GenZs.
The GenZs are the next big catch because they are tech savvy. How is the NGX adopting emerging technologies to woo them to the stock market? He was glad to answer.
I don't want to use that old and tired word that technology is an enabler. Technology should be seen as a service. And when you see it as a service, it not only administers to the Gen Z, it talks to the millennials, and it talks to the baby boomers as well, even to the octogenarians. So the only way to address it is to see that how do I have service level from technology, from artificial intelligence, from blockchain, from cloud, from different codifications too, that really talks to the service that brings the consumer closer. And that's how we have to address it. Because if you don't address it that way, the problem you're going to have is that you're not going to have that entire buy-in from the ecosystem, and you need to have that. So that's where I see it. Because ultimately, technology would unlock the next level of nation building in Nigeria and even in Africa. We want to get to a point where when we are even doing an election, our next election, it will fully be technology enabled, because if I transfer a Richard card token to you now or money to you, I don't have to leave the confines of my room. We should be able to vote in that way as well. And it's coming. It's going to come.
That will be all for this edition of the Market Review Show. If you have questions or suggestions on exploring the prospects of listing tech companies in Nigerian stock market, please send an email to Ottoabasi@proshare.co. Also join our website www.proshare.co to read the latest news articles, stories, and reports on the capital market. You can engage us via our social media platforms displayed on the screen. It's the new month of November, and we want to thank you for participating in our 8th ProShare Online Trading Ranking Report Survey, which will come out, the full report published this month. Don't forget that you need to be informed to make the right investment decisions. Thank you for watching, and keep discussing the financial and capital markets all through the month of November, because they create wealth and economic opportunities.